What's up, guys? It's Tony with Throw the Grill. Today we're going to replace rear axle seals on this 2012 Jeep JKU. So let's get to it. So what we're going to do is go ahead and unbolt this brake caliper. Now with the brake caliper off, we need to go ahead and take off the brake caliper bracket. Okay, if your axle seal leaked as bad as this one did here, ended up getting gear oil on the brake pads and contaminated the brake pads, and they're no good. So if you got oil on the brake pads like that, go ahead and replace your brakes. But if yours did not get oil on it, then no need to replace them. So let's go ahead and continue on. Oh yeah, you can see how bad this one's been leaking. There's gear oil all on the back side of this. Like I said, if it didn't get on your brake pads, you're good. This one does not have e-brakes in it. I do not recommend not running the Jeep without e-brakes. So if you do have e-brakes and you got gear oil all over the e-brakes, definitely go ahead and replace those. Now we need to go ahead and remove the rear ABS sensor. I like to take this out of the way just when I'm pulling this axle shaft. We don't have any chance of breaking that sensor. So we're going to go ahead and unbolt it from the back here and just slide it back some so it's out of the way. Now it's time to get this rear axle unbolted. So there's a axle retaining plate right here, and there's studs, 4 of them, that are on this retaining plate. And they go through the axle tube here, and there's 4 nuts on the back side. There's 2 here and then 2 on the other side. So we need to get all of these nuts off so then we can get this axle pulled out. Now it's time to take this axle out. Unfortunately, these axles usually just don't fall out. You need a slide hammer to pull them out. I already got the slide hammer attached to the axle shaft. I am going to go ahead and put all the links to the tools that I'm using in the description, the Amazon links. So if you guys are curious on what tools I'm using to do this repair on this Jeep, that's where they'll be. So a little trick that I use for slide hammers, usually I like a little bit bigger rag than this here. But these slide hammers can take a tool on your wrist and your hands and stuff. I've been doing this for a while now, and I tell you what, it's definitely take a little bit of a tool. So to relieve some of that abuse that you're going to have on the slide hammer here, I wrap the towel around the handle, and I give it a little slide. There we go. The first thing we need to do is get this bearing retainer off. So all I do is take a cutoff wheel, and I'll put a cut into the retainer. Watch what you're doing. You don't want to cut into the axle. I cut down as far as I can before I get to the axle. Because then what I'll do is I'll take a chisel, put it in that cut, and smack it. And then it will pop this retainer so then you can go ahead and remove it. So I'll show you how I do it. So here goes. Now I heard it make a little pop sound, so we'll go ahead and smack it here. All right, it's free. I did get a little nick there on the shaft, but that's okay. The biggest thing is you don't want to nick where the seal rides on the axle. So save this retainer because I use it later on to help install the new wheel bearing. Okay, now it's time to get the wheel bearing off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the cutoff wheel here and cut up this cage on the bearing. And then I'm going to pull the bearing and all the rollers off. And then I'm going to do the same like I did with the bearing retainer. I'm going to put a cut down into that, hit it with the chisel, pop it off, and then I'll be able to pull the seal and everything off. So let's go ahead and get to it. All right, same thing for this bearing race. So we need to go ahead and cut down into this. Watch what you're doing because this one's a lot more crucial here because the seal sits right back here. So you don't want to nick where that seal rides because then you'll cause leaks. So let's go ahead and let's get a relief cut in here and get it off. Okay, we can't forget to take the old bearing race out. The new bearings come with the new race, so definitely make sure you take out the old bearing race. And majority of the time, like you can see here, this one already kind of slid out a little bit as I was pulling out the axle shaft. It kind of almost come out on its own. So majority of the time, they move out like that. Sometimes they're a little bit of a pain. There's an attachment on your slide hammer that has like a little hook or a finger that you can get on the back side of this and pop them out. Or there's like an old school seal puller that can get on the back side and you can pull them out. This one here is kind of already moving on its own, so I don't know if we're going to need any assistance or not to get this out, but we'll see if we can work it out. There we go. Majority of the time they pop out like that, but if they don't, like I said, the slide hammer has a little finger on there that you can usually catch on there and pop it out. Or use the old school seal puller, get on the back side and pull it out. I'll make sure all the links are in the description so you can find the tools that you need to do this job. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and get some brake clean, spray inside here, and just clean this all up. When you're taking all this stuff apart, don't forget the orientation on how the bearings went, how the seal sat in there, and everything like that. Also, on the retaining plate for the axle, there's a little divot on two sides here. And what that's for is actually for your ABS sensor. So when you're putting this back together, just make sure that this is where your ABS is going to go, so then it slides through there and you're not going to have any problems. But I went ahead and got the retaining plate on there, stuck the wheel seal on there. So now I can go ahead and put the bearing on there, and then the retaining plate. So like I said, just make sure you remember the orientation on how things go on there, so you're not putting anything on there backwards and then having to do this all over again. So this seal already comes pre-packed with grease. So if yours doesn't, it's a good idea to either put gear oil in there or put a little bit of grease in there, because it's going to take some time for that oil to get out to this bearing. So let's go ahead and get this on there. Remember when I told you to save the part of the old bearing and the old bearing retainer? Well, this is where we're going to use them. So I like to slide them on the shaft here. And these are actually going to help me press on the new bearing and the new bearing retainer. Now, sometimes this bearing here will get stuck, but that's okay. It has the relief cut in it, so you just hit it off with your chisel and your hammer, and you're good to go. So we got the good old Harbor Freight press over here, which for the money, this thing is freaking awesome. So if you guys need a press for your garage, at home, or even in your shop, just go pick one of these up. There's no sense in spending a lot of money on one. Let's go ahead and get this axle shaft on there, get these bearings pressed on, and get it back into the Jeep. Okay, when you're pressing this on, be extremely careful. Use your good judgment when you're pressing these on. You just got to pay attention to what you're doing. But anyhow, you'll know when this wheel bearing is completely on there. This, you won't be able to press it anymore. It'll bottom completely out. So if you're not sure, you'll know when this bottoms out, it's not going to go on anymore. If it continues to move, then it's not where it needs to be. So this wheel bearing and the seal is on there. Now all we got to do is put this axle shaft back in the Jeep. Now right here is where you line up the notch that's on your axle shaft retaining plate. So the notch is right here, and right here is where the wheel speed sensor, ABS sensor, comes through the axle. So just make sure you line that notch up, and you'll be good to go. So I'm not going to show you how to put this back together. Just do it in reverse order. It's not too hard putting it back together. The biggest hurdle is just getting the bearing off and getting the bearing on. So here, it's just a couple nuts and bolts. Things are back together. Just make sure you torque everything down. And when you put the wheel on, make sure you torque the wheel. Take it for a test drive and make sure nothing is leaking. Take it for like 10, 20 miles, bring it back, double check, make sure everything's good, and then you'll be good to go. So if you guys have any questions, just leave them in the comments, and I'll get back to you. You guys have a good one.